Then Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Israel.
This is the thing which the Lord has commanded. If a man makes a vow to the Lord, or swears an oath to bind himself by some agreement, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. Or if a woman makes a vow to the Lord and binds herself by some agreement while in her father's house in her youth, and her father hears her vow and the agreement by which she has bound herself, and her father holds his peace, then all her vows shall stand, and every agreement with which she has bound herself shall stand. But if her father
let it continue before I say anything.
overrules her on the day that he hears, then none of her vows, nor her agreements by which she has bound herself, shall stand. And the Lord will release her because her father overruled her.
Okay, so it looks like when it comes to vows, the male takes responsibility no matter what. Even if a woman makes a promise, right? The male can overrule it and take responsibility, right? Overrule it and say, okay, you know what? That we're not gonna do that, right? And binds herself to by some agreement while in her father's house or in her youth, and her father hears her vow and the argument by which she has bound herself, and her father holds his peace, then all her vows shall stand, and every agreement with which she has bound herself shall stand. Well, I guess it says she bound herself, right? So she takes responsibility for it there, right? But her father can overrule it because she is still in her youth. She lives with her father. She's still a kid or whatever, or young. And like if a little girl, right, says, you know what, promises to somebody, say, hey, I can come over to play tomorrow. And then the father's like, no, you're going to stay home. The father just overruled her promise right there, right? And but by overruling, he is taking responsibility, right? Because if that family who invited her over says, hey, you were supposed to come over, blah, 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 the father has to go and be like, you know what, I told her she can't come, blah, 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 like that, right? So in that case, as a father, he is taking the responsibility. And same goes for without a woman involved, right? If a man makes a promise, he has to keep by it, right? He's taking responsibility for his own word. So now it's going to talk about husbands, right? We talked about individuals, fathers. Now let's talk about husbands.
If indeed she takes a husband while bound by her vows, or by a rash utterance from her lips by which she bound herself, and her husband hears it and makes no response to her on the day that he hears, then her vows shall stand, and her agreements by which she bound herself shall stand. But if her husband overrules her on the day that he hears it, he shall make void her vow which she took, and what she uttered with her lips, by which she bound herself, and the Lord will release her.
The reason why you get a second release from a vow here is because she is joining a new family, right? She has married her husband and she has joined her new family, and she won't be under her father's name anymore, right? So just like her father could release her from a vow, her husband can release her from a vow now because she is part of his family.
Also, any vow of a widow or a divorced woman by which she has bound herself shall stand against her.
Right, because there's no one to release her from that vow, right? So it'll be same as a man making a promise, right? You can't release yourself from the promise, or the vow that you made, right? You have to hold by it, right?
If she vowed in her husband's house, or bound herself by an agreement with an oath, and her husband heard it and made no response to her, and did not overrule her, then all her vows shall stand, and every agreement by which she bound herself shall stand. But if her husband truly made them void on the day he heard them, then whatever proceeded from her lips concerning her vows, or concerning the agreement binding her, it shall not stand. Her husband has made them void, and the Lord will release her. Every vow and every binding oath to afflict her soul, her husband may confirm it, or her husband may make it void. Now, if her husband makes no response whatever to her from day to day, then he confirms all her vows or all the agreements that bind her. He confirms them because he made no response to her on the day that he heard them. But if he does make them void after he has heard them, then he shall bear her guilt.
But if he does make them void after he has heard them, then he shall bear her guilt. What do you mean? Like overrule them? Make them void? Now if her husband makes no response whatever to her from day to day, then he confirms all her vows or all the agreements that bind her, that he confirms them because he has made no response on the day that he heard them. But if he does make them void after he has heard them, then he shall bear her guilt. Okay. So again, the man takes responsibility, right? Because she is under his family right now. So if a woman makes a promise and the husband doesn't say, right, and they get married, right, and the husband doesn't say anything, right, after hearing them, but then decides to void it, he has to bear the responsibility.
These are the statutes which the Lord commanded Moses between a...
Right, because he heard it, he could have, and if he didn't agree with it, he could have overruled it, but he didn't. He didn't say anything. He didn't take action. He didn't do anything. He didn't take responsibility, right? So now he's bearing the guilt for a promise his wife had made prior to marriage, right? So there we go. All right. So now that's a lot of pressure, honestly. You gotta be on top of things.
A man and his wife, and between a father and his daughter in her youth, in her father's house.
$31. Let's go.
And the Lord spoke to Moses.
Take vengeance on the Midianites for the children of Israel. Afterward, you shall be gathered to your people.
All right, so we're going back to, remember the Moabites and the Midianites the women had seduced the children of Israel, and the Midianites and the Moabites had slowly, drew them into paganism, into those type of things, invited them over, and the children of Israel bowed down to their gods and all that stuff because the women had seduced them. Right? So now God wants to take vengeance on those people, right? Why but not the Moabites? Why just the Midianites? I don't know. But the reason why I don't understand taking vengeance on the Midianites, right? Because if it is about that, why are you taking vengeance on somebody that seduced you and you fell for, right? You fell for it. That's on you, right? It's not their fault that you fell for it. They could have come and seduced you, and you could have been like, yeah, I'm not falling for that, right? I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing, all right? I know my God. I'm not doing that pagan idolatry, whatnot, right? So the children of Israel fell for it. So why take vengeance on them, right? I mean, I can understand. God is mad at them for practicing idolatry, right? Because these are the Midianites we're talking about. They're descendants of Midian, right? Was it the Midianites that were descendants of Abraham, right? Midian, Abraham. Let me look that up real quick. Midian was the son of Abraham, yeah. So I understand if God wants to punish the Midianites, right? Because remember, God promised Abraham, he would bless Abraham and his descendants, right? That he will have descendants as vast as the sand in the desert and the stars in the sky, right? So I understand if God wants to punish the Midianites, right? Because they knew better, right? Coming from Abraham. Abraham was a pagan and then he changed his ways, right? And God set Abraham apart from everybody else. Remember the sign of the circumcision and all that stuff, right? So the Midianites should know better. But you don't punish the Midianites because the children of Israel fell for their seduction. That doesn't really, I don't really understand. It seems like you're projecting your flaws, not projecting your flaws, but like, you know what I mean? It's like, dang, I messed up. It's their fault. So we're going to go kill them, you know? I don't really understand that. Let me see what this Bible has to say, why they're going after the Midianites. Is it for that reason? Because the Moabites and Midianites had seduced the children of Israel, or is it a different reason? Let's see. Because, the Midianites haven't done anything else from what I remember from what we were reading. Let's check it out. What is it? 31:31. 31:1. What am I reading? 31:2. Numbers 31. Where is it? Okay, here we go. Chapter 31 refers back to chapter 25, the debacle of Israel's sin at Baal Peor. Yeah, that's what we were talking about. And the role that Midianites played in orchestrating the events. So, you want to just go back and check chapter 25 just to refresh, right? Numbers chapter 25, right? Why does it... Let's do New King James Version. So Israel was joined to Baal of Peor, right? Why? And the people began to commit harlotry with the women of Moab. They invited the people to the sacrifices of their gods, and the people ate and bowed down to their gods. Right? The women of Moab, remember, and Midian, the Midian women. And indeed, one of the children of Israel came and presented to his brethren a Midianite woman, who in the sight of Moses and in the sight of the congregation of the children of Israel, blah, 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 right? And then remember, Phinehas, son of Eleazar, stabbed him, right? And then so God blessed Phinehas' descendants. So, that's why we're going after the Midianites. Why? But what about the Moabites? Remember we were talking about, I think it was Balak was the king of the Moabites, right? And they didn't fight, right? They didn't fight. Remember, God told Balaam to bless the children of Israel, not to curse them, right? Because Balak was scared of the children of Israel in actual physical combat. So did the Moab go off scot-free? Get off scot-free? I don't know. Because I don't see any mention of Moab, right? Going after the Moabites. Let's keep reading. Let me know if you have any insight on that. Why didn't God go after the Moabites? Why are we going after the Midianites only?
So Moses spoke to the people.
Let's see. Moab was I don't think so, right? Moabites. Who are the descendants of Moab? The son of Lot. Okay, so still relative to because Lot was Abraham's nephew, I think, right? Born of an incestuous relationship with his eldest daughter, right? Because both of Lot's daughters had gotten Lot drunk and then laid with him. So they were lost from from the get-go. But I wonder why God didn't go after them.
Arm some of yourselves for war, and let them go against the Midianites to take vengeance for the Lord on Midian. 1,000 from each tribe of all the tribes of Israel you shall send to the war.
So there were recruited from the divisions of Israel 1,000 from each tribe, 12,000 armed for war. Then Moses sent them to...
You see how they have 600,000 ready. They just took, we're just going to get 12,000, man. That's crazy.
The war, 1,000 from each tribe. He sent them to the war with Phinehas, the son of Eleazar the priest, with the holy articles and the signal trumpets in his hand. And they warred against the Midianites, just as the Lord commanded Moses, and they killed all the males. They killed all the kings of Midian, with the rest of those who were killed, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian. Balaam, the son of Beor, they also killed with the sword.
Ooh.
And the children of Israel took...
Right? Because this is when Moab, Moab with Balak had wanted to join forces with Midian, with Balaam, right? To start a spiritual war. That's why Balak wanted Balaam to curse the children of Israel, because he knew that he couldn't fight head on, right? But Balaam didn't want to, right? Why? Because the Lord God told Balaam, don't. Right? And that God, the one God, was Balaam's God also. Right? The God of Abraham was Balaam's God also. So I wonder why God didn't come and tell Balaam here that, hey, get out of town, right? Because you're going to get killed if you're here. Or why didn't God use Balaam to minister to the people of Midian, of the Midianites? I don't know, because it seemed like God and Balaam had a good relationship. They were talking back and forth. Balaam recognized God as the one true God, right? Listen to him. And even though Balak wanted to curse the children of Israel, God told Balaam, don't only say what I say. And Balaam did and blessed the children of Israel, in fact. So I wonder why God didn't relay that information to Balaam, like, hey, the children of Israel are going to come. You better get out. Or before the children of Israel even come for war, let Balaam know and let him minister to the people of Midian, unless God thought the Midianites deserved punishment. And if he did think the Midianites deserved punishment, Why not let Balaam, like a servant of yours, know? I don't know. I don't understand that. Let's see if the Bible has anything to say. What was that? 31:8. Let's see. Nothing. Let's see if we can look it up. Why did God let Balaam be killed? God wanted Balaam dead? The answer the Zohar explain. Who's Zohar? The answer the Zohar explains is that God told Balaam, or Bilam. I'm guessing this is the Jewish take or the Islam take. Told Bilam only that he could go with the men. Only Bilam, not his female donkey. The female donkey in the ensuing fable represents the aspect of evil. What? I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, who cares about the donkey? I mean, just riding the donkey there. Well, let's keep reading and let's see if they mention anything first before I just go and start digging without knowing what I'm digging for.
Balaam, the son of Beor, they also killed with the sword. And the children of Israel took the women of Midian captive with their little ones, and took as spoil all their cattle, all their flocks, and all their goods. They also burned with fire all the cities where they dwelt, and all their forts, and they took all the spoil, and all the booty of man and beast. Then they brought the captives, the booty, and the spoil to Moses.
The booty? Are they pirates now?
Eleazar the priest, and to the congregation of the children of Israel, to the camp in the plains of Moab by the Jordan, across from Jericho. And Moses, Eleazar the priest, and all the leaders of the congregation went to meet them outside the camp. But Moses was angry with the officers of the army, with the captains over thousands and captains over hundreds who had come from the battle. And Moses said to them,
"Have you kept all the women alive? Look, these women caused the children of Israel, through the counsel of Balaam, to trespass against the Lord in the incident of Peor."
Through the counsel of Balaam? So Balaam told the women to go and seduce the children of Israel? What? We never said that up until now. Is Moses just does this Bible say anything about that? Just Moses he's just like making things up, or like he's guessing, or he's just assuming? All right, there's a section that sort of talks about this, but it's talking about from 12 to 24. So let's get up to 24, and then I'll read the commentary.
And there was a plague among the congregation of the Lord,
killing 24,000.
Now, therefore, kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman who has known a man intimately. But keep alive for yourselves all the young girls who have not known a man intimately.
How do they know?
And as for you, remain outside the camp 7 days. Whoever has killed any person, and whoever has touched any slain, purify yourselves and your captives on the third day and on the seventh day.
Because we were talking about this earlier. They are considered unclean, right? at that point.
Pure.
And 30 and 7th day. 7th day meaning not on Sabbath, right? They're not cleaning them. They're not cleaning themselves on the Sabbath. It's meaning that the 3rd day from the day of being unclean to the 7th day from the day of being unclean.
Purify every garment, everything made of leather, everything woven of goat's hair, and everything made of wood.
Then Eleazar the priest said to the men of war who had gone to the battle,
This is the ordinance of the law which the Lord commanded Moses. Only the gold, the silver, the bronze, the iron, the tin, and the lead, everything that can endure fire, you shall put through the fire, and it shall be clean, and it shall be purified with the water of purification. But all that cannot endure fire, you shall put through water, and you shall wash your clothes on the 7th day and be clean, and afterward you may come into the camp.
Now the Lord spoke to Moses.
Count up the plunder that was
So we're just gonna gold will melt in the fire. We're gonna just melt it down.
taken of man and beast, you and Eleazar the priest, and the chief fathers of the congregation, and divide the plunder
Or maybe it doesn't melt in just regular fire.
into 2 parts between those who took part in the war.
All right. We're talking about splitting up the goods right now. So let me go ahead and read that commentary. When the victors made their way back to the encampments of Israel, they found not praise but anger. Have you kept all the women alive? The key to Moses' anger is the sinfulness of the women. These women had caused Israel to sin, as they had been counseled by Balaam. I don't remember that happening. Balaam had been slain along with the kings and notables of the people. Now the women and their male children needed to be killed as well. Only the young girls who were still virgins were to be kept alive, for only they were provably innocent of the sexual sins of their mothers. What about the little boys? What? Since this was a holy war, the soldiers and their possessions needed to go through extraordinary purification rites. This purification demanded both cleansing, fire, and water. All right, when did the Midianite women counsel Balaam? Or when did the Balaam counsel the Midianite women? Man, I misspelled that. Ugh. What is happening? Oh my gosh. All right, the question here is, did Balaam counsel the Midianites in the incident of Baal Peor as alluded in Numbers 31? Right? Because it wasn't mentioned in the incident of Baal Peor, but it's alluded here in Numbers 31. After the men of Israel had committed harlot... Okay, we were just rereading what we just read. Right? Behold, these caused the sons of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to trespass against the Lord in the matter of Peor. Right? But it did not mention Balaam here at all when they're actually talking about it. Right? So Israel joined themselves to the Baal of Peor, and the Lord was angry against Israel. All of Balaam's prophecies and counsels are recorded, which he gave to Balak. In all his utterance, there is no record of him counseling Balak to use women against Israelites. Instead, in their last encounter, Balak is actually livid with Balaam for having blessed Israel. How could Balak have been angry with Balaam if he had been given this counsel? Was Moses using Balaam as a face saver for the wayward Israelites? All right, let's see what this guy says. But I have a few things against you. Oh, we're jumping into Revelation. But I have a few things against you. You have some there who hold the teaching of Balaam. Who is he talking to? Who taught Balak to put a stumbling block before the sons of Israel. When? That stumbling block was the women of the Midianite women, so that they might eat food sacrificed to idols and practice sexual immorality. And it's not only mentioned in Numbers what they did. Then they yoked themselves to the Baal of Peor and ate sacrifices offered to the dead. They provoked the Lord in anger with their deeds, and a plague broke out among them. All right, we know that's what they did, but no mention of Balaam right there. Mention of Balaam in Revelation, though. But who wrote Revelation? John, right? John could have just been reading Numbers 31 and wrote that, right? The question is, why would Balak allow an enemy he had just tried to curse come into his city? Unless he deliberately sparked their curiosity with loud music from their temples and temple prostitutes. He even had this idea himself. If he had this idea himself, he wouldn't have called Balaam to curse Israel, but Balaam was not emotionally involved, and the Bible says Balaam suggested it. No, because Balak would have called Balaam to curse the children of Israel. If he had this idea himself, he wouldn't have called Balaam to curse Israel. That's two separate things, right? Okay, so you think that maybe this guy's thinking that that idea was to, instead of cursing Israel, let's get them to do something that they know their God would be angry at, and their God would take vengeance, his anger out on the children of Israel. Okay. But the interesting thing is, Balaam's God is the God of Israel, so I don't understand. I guess it's important to realize that the quotation from Revelation is a direct verbiage of Jesus himself, and not merely a human speculating or recounting some historical event passed down through oral tradition. Okay. This is better than prophecy because it's God himself speaking, so it carries a lot of weight, because he would have personally seen the event when it unfolded. So he was an eyewitness. So it doesn't matter that it was told centuries later. It's an eyewitness account. Okay, let's see what this next person had to say. This is interesting stuff. In the narrative about Balaam in Numbers 22 and following, it appears that Balaam did what was right. Rather than curse Israel, he blessed them 3 times and forfeited the reward. Yet, in the New Testament, Balaam is portrayed as a villain, denying the Lord. So what did Balaam do wrong? Scholars say that a tradition sprang up that Balaam secretly gave tips to Balak on how to seduce the Jews into idolatry, and thus undermined their secure position in the Lord's care. Okay. This aligns with why God was angry at Balaam for getting up and following Balak, even though God told him that it was okay. If they call you, you can get up and go, but just say what I say. Right? Remember, God had the angel there and the talking donkey and all that stuff? And God was mad at Balaam. Why? Maybe he knew that something like this was going to happen. So what did Balaam do wrong? Scholars say that a tradition sprang up that Balaam secretly gave tips to Balak on how to seduce the Jews into idolatry and thus undermine their secure position in the Lord's care. We might see that in Revelation's reference to the teaching of Balaam. However, Micah uses his blessings as a righteous model. "O my people, remember now what Balak king of Moab consulted, and what Balaam the son of Beor answered from Shittim unto Gilgal, that ye may know the righteousness of the Lord." I think that Paul had a different interpretation that better suits the actual narrative. Let me explain. As I read it, Balaam's error was not in anything he said, but rather in his going along with Balak's men in fellowship with their religious temple and eating food sacrificed to Baal. Okay. Then Balaam is Numbers 22. Then Balaam accompanied Balak to Kiriath Huzoth, where the king sacrificed cattle and sheep. He sent portions of the meat to Balaam and the officials who were with him. The next morning, Balak took Balaam to Bamoth Baal. From there, he could see some of the people of Israel spread out below him. Okay, so when he was doing the sacrifice in the cattle and sheep, I was assuming that he was sacrificing it to God, not to an idol. Up to Bamoth Baal. Where is Bamoth Baal? An elevated point in the land of Moab. Okay. Nothing to do with Baal, the god. High places of Baal. So maybe it did? Maybe it had to do with Baal, the god, or Baal. Oop. That was, I believe, and I believe Paul believed, to be Balaam's offense. And it was this behavior that Balaam taught to Israel by example. But Balaam didn't really mingle with the children of Israel. We see that at Shittim, this is precisely the behavior of the wayward Jews that got them all killed to purify the camp. But see, they were not taught to Israel by Balaam. They were taught to Israel by the women that seduced them. While the Israelites were camped, okay, we know this. Paul uses this to teach the Corinthians the danger of joining in with the pagans' feast, right? Right here they're talking about the women seducing the men and luring them into paganism. Paul uses this to teach the Corinthians the danger of joining in the pagan feasts by partaking of the meat offered to idols, because their example might suggest to an impressionable believer, perhaps accustomed to partaking at those feasts, that it is okay. And then it goes into Paul's teachings. This is why Revelation says that Balaam is said to have taught Balak, not the Jews, how to put a stumbling block. That makes more sense. Not Balaam teaching the children of Israel. But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that... Holy. But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. Okay, so it makes sense, which is why God was angry at Balaam. If Balaam had taught Balak, instead of cursing the children of Israel, because that's what God told him not to do, instead he, on the sly, probably told Balak, you know what, I can't really do anything, but if you want to, you can get these women to seduce the children of Israel, right? We're not making them do anything. We're not cursing them. They're doing it themselves. If they fall for temptation, it's on them. Right? Right.
Who went out to battle, and all the congregation.
So what I'm getting at is, but then with that kind of logic, they probably didn't expect that God was like, we're going to take vengeance on the Midianites for just seducing the children of Israel, right? But it makes sense why Balaam was killed in the war. Makes sense then.
Close on the seventh day and be clean, and afterward you may come into the camp.
Now the Lord spoke to Moses.
Count up the plunder that was taken of man and beast, you and Eleazar the priest, and the chief fathers of the congregation, and divide the plunder into 2 parts, between those who took part in the war, who went out to battle, and all the congregation. And levy a tribute for the Lord on the men of war who went out to battle, 1 of every 500 of the persons, the cattle, the donkeys, and the sheep. Take it from their half, and give it to Eleazar the priest as a heave offering to the Lord. And from the children of Israel's half, you shall take 1 of every 50, drawn from the persons, the cattle, the donkeys, and the sheep.
All right, so they'll take more from the children of Israel and less from the actual men who went out to fight. All right, that's fair.
Sheep from all the livestock, and give them to the Levites, who keep charge of the tabernacle of the Lord.
So Moses and Eleazar the priest did as the Lord commanded Moses. The booty remaining from the plunder which the men of war had taken was 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 persons in all, of women who had not known a man intimately. And the half, the portion for those who had gone out to war, was in number 337,500 sheep. And the Lord's tribute of the sheep was 675. The cattle were 36,000, of which the Lord's tribute was 72. The donkeys were 30,500, of which the Lord's tribute was 61. The persons were 16,000, of which the Lord's tribute was 32 persons. So Moses gave the tribute, which was the Lord's heave offering, to Eleazar the priest, as the Lord commanded Moses. And from the children of Israel's half, which Moses separated from the men who fought, now the half belonging to the congregation was 337,500 sheep, 36,000 cattle, 30,500 donkeys, and 16,000 persons. And from the children of Israel's half, Moses took 1 of every 50, drawn from man and beast, and gave them to the Levites, who kept charge of the tabernacle of the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses. Then the officers who were over thousands of the army, the captains of thousands and captains of hundreds, came near to Moses, and they said to Moses,
Your servants have taken account of the men of war who are under our command, and not a man of us is missing. Therefore, we have brought an offering for the Lord, what every man found of ornaments of gold, armlets and bracelets, and signet rings and earrings and necklaces, to make atonement for ourselves before the Lord.
So Moses and Eleazar the priest received the gold from them, all the fashioned ornaments, and all the gold of the offering that they offered to the Lord, from the captains of thousands and captains of hundreds, was 16,750 shekels. The men of war had taken spoil, every man for himself. And Moses and Eleazar the priest received the gold from the captains of thousands and of hundreds, and brought it into the tabernacle of meeting as a memorial for the children of Israel before the Lord.
Where's 32 at?
Now the children of Reuben and the children of Gad had a very great multitude of livestock. And when they saw the land of Jazer and the land of Gilead, that indeed the region was a place for livestock, The children of Gad and the children of Reuben came and spoke to Moses, to Eleazar the priest, and to the leaders of the congregation.
Ataroth, Dibon, Jazer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Elealeh, Shebam, Nebo, and Beon. The country which the Lord defeated before the congregation of Israel is a land for livestock, and your servants have livestock.
Therefore they said,
If we have found favor in your sight, let this land be given to your servants as a possession. Do not take us over the Jordan.
And Moses said to the children of Gad and to the children of Reuben,
Shall your brethren go to war while you sit here? Now, why will you discourage the heart of the children of Israel from going over into the land which the Lord has given them? Thus your fathers did when I sent them away from Kadesh Barnea to see the land. For when they went up to the valley of Eshcol and saw the land, they discouraged the heart of the children of Israel, so that they did not go into the land which the Lord had given them. So the Lord's anger was aroused on that day, and he swore an oath, saying, Surely none of the men who came up from Egypt, from 20 years old and above, shall see the land of which I swore to Abraham.
He's talking about, remember when Moses sent the 12 spies, including Caleb and Joshua, and 10 of them came back with the bad report and were scared, right? The descendants of Anak were there, right? And supposedly the descendants of Anak were giants, and they were scared, right? The city was fortified, and they were strong, and so they were scared. There's no way we can go and fight and overtake and make this our land, right? But Joshua and Caleb, they had faith in God, and they didn't say, say look, there's giants, they're really strong and anything like that. They were like, let's go in. God is with us. We're gonna go in. We're gonna take the land that God promised us.
Old and above shall see the land of which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because they have not wholly followed me, except Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, and Joshua the son of Nun, for they have wholly followed the Lord. So the Lord's anger was aroused against Israel, and he made them wander in the wilderness 40 years, until all the generation that had done evil in the sight of the Lord was gone. And look,
That's interesting too, right? Because he knew that those group of people had always risen up against God, always complained, always sinned, right? They didn't believe. So God made them wander through the wilderness till they all died out. That's crazy, right? What was the exact phraseology that Moses used? Where is it? He made them wander in the wilderness for 40 years until all the generation that had done evil in the sight of the Lord was gone, right? So God wanted to wipe out everybody that had done evil in his sight. This is similar to the idea of, again, we're taking it back to Genesis 6, right? Because I'm trying to draw as many clues as I can to explain that, because we don't have enough information on that, right? So if you would believe that the sons of men are angels, the fallen angels, and the sons of God, and the daughters of men, or human women, came together and had these half-breed type things, right? Which is a sin in God's eye, right? Because only a kind can be with one of its kind, right? You can't mix kinds. And, they're fallen angels, come on. So God wanted to wipe them all out, right? He wanted to wipe out that entire generation that had done evil in the sight of the Lord. So he sent the flood and wiped them all out. So, yeah. But then again, remember, it could be the sons of Seth, the godly line from the sons of Seth, instead of the sons of God, like angels. So, I don't know. That's a debated topic, right?
Done evil in the sight of the Lord was gone. And look, you have risen in your father's place a brood of sinful men, to increase still more the fierce anger of the Lord against Israel. For if you turn away from following him, he will once again leave them in the wilderness, and you will destroy all these people.
Then they came near to him and said,
We will build sheepfolds here for our livestock, and cities for our little ones. But we ourselves will be armed, ready to go before the children of Israel until we have brought them to their place. And our little ones will dwell in the fortified cities, because of the inhabitants of the land. We will not return to our homes until every one of the children of Israel has received his inheritance.
For we will not inherit with them on the other side of the Jordan and beyond, because our inheritance has fallen to us on this eastern side of the Jordan.
If you do this thing, if you arm yourselves before the Lord for the war, and all your armed men cross over the Jordan...
Wait, did the Levites get any inheritance? They shouldn't, right? Because that's why they're getting all of the offering. Right?
Sent them away.
They shouldn't get. That's their inheritance. We will not return to our homes until every one of our children, of the children of Israel, has received his inheritance. For we will not inherit with them on the other side of the Jordan and beyond, because our inheritance has fallen to us on this eastern side of the Jordan. Oh, inheritance meaning the promised land. Okay, never mind.
And look, and this is from before him. If you
them on the other side of the Jordan and beyond, because our inheritance has fallen to us on this eastern side of the Jordan.
If you do this thing, if you arm yourselves before the Lord for the war, and all your armed men cross over the Jordan before the Lord, until he has driven out his enemies from before him, and the land is subdued before the Lord, then, afterward, you may return and be blameless before the Lord and before Israel. And this land shall be your possession before the Lord. But if you do not do so, then take note. You have sinned against the Lord, and be sure your sin will find you out. Build cities for your little ones, and folds for your sheep, and do what has proceeded out of your mouth.
And the children of Gad and the children of Reuben spoke to Moses.
Your servants will do as my Lord commands.
Our little ones, our wives, our flocks, and all our livestock will be there in the cities of Gilead. But your servants Cross over, every man armed for war, before the Lord to battle, just as my Lord says.
So Moses gave command concerning them to Eleazar the priest, to Joshua the son of Nun, and to the chief fathers of the tribes of the children of Israel. And Moses said to them,
If the children of Gad and the children of Reuben cross over the Jordan with you, every man armed for battle before the Lord, and the land is subdued before you, then you shall give them the land of Gilead as a possession. But if they do not cross over armed with you, they shall have possessions among you in the land of Canaan.
Then the children of Gad and the children of Reuben answered,
As the Lord has said to your servants, so we will do.
We will cross over armed before the Lord into the land of Canaan. But the possession of our inheritance shall remain with us on this side of the Jordan.
So Moses gave to the children of Gad, to the children of Reuben, and to half the tribe of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, the land with its cities within the borders, the cities of the surrounding country. And the children of Gad built Dibon, and Ataroth, and Aroah, Atrath, and Shopham, and Jazer, and Jagbeah, Beth Nimrah, and Beth Haran, fortified cities, and folds for sheep. And the children of Reuben built Heshbon, and Elealeh, and Kirjathaim, Nebo, and Baal-meon, their names being changed, and Shibmah. And they gave other names to the cities which they built. And the children of Machir, the son of Manasseh, went to Gilead and took it, and dispossessed the Amorites who were in it. So Moses gave Gilead to Machir, the son of Manasseh.
It must have been a tough decision trying to figure out how to divvy up the land to give to people. I know they were talking about earlier, God or Moses said that, the bigger the tribe, the bigger the amount of land, but still, it must have been a hard task to figure out, this is what this person's getting, this is what this tribe is getting, this is what this tribe is getting, without having some infighting among the people. It's no, I wanted that piece, I wanted this piece, all right?
And he dwelt in it. Also Jair, the son of Manasseh, went and took its small towns, and called them Havath-Jair. Then Nobah went and took Kenath and its villages, and he called it Nobah, after his own name.
All right, that is it. We just finished up Numbers 32. Numbers 30 to 31, 32, we just finished up. That was a lot. There was a good chunk of stuff in there. We were talking about wars. We were talking about divvying up the land. We were talking about the sins of the children of Israel with the Midianites again. We're talking about the laws concerning vows and how the responsibility falls onto the men for when making promises. Tomorrow we're going to be jumping into 33. Israel's journey from Egypt reviewed. Oh, we're getting a recap. This is like those special episodes on an anime where they do the recap. All right, so we're going to get a recap, and then we're going to jump into the appointed boundaries for Canaan. Then we're going to get deeper, it looks like. Right, they talked about a little bit over here. But now we're going to talk about the boundaries. I was just going to ask that, right? Are they going to use the exact same boundaries that were used that were previously used, or are we going to change it up, right? Because now we're working with 12 tribes. It's not going to be the same layout as it was before, right? So each of those 12 tribes need their own land, right? So we have to divvy up the land accordingly. So we're going to figure out the boundaries of Canaan. So that's going to be for tomorrow's reading, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. That'll be interesting, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's reading too. It was quite interesting. So that'll be it for today, and I will see you guys tomorrow, all right? Take care. Goodbye.